carbon fiber front splitter with the full-length red accent stripe running the rocker on a Tahoe. Nobody puts a factory splitter on a full-size family SUV. Nobody. Until now. There is one specific cooling decision inside that supercharged engine bay that no American full-size SUV manufacturer has engineered at the factory level in this class. Not Jeep, not Dodge, not Ford. I'll tell you exactly what it is before this video ends, but it only makes sense once you've seen the full picture first. And on the price question, whether $95,000 is the right number for this truck depends entirely on what you're replacing. If you're coming out of a Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, the answer is different than if you're stepping up from a standard Tahoe Premier. Two very different buyers, two very different verdicts. We're walking the exterior, going deep on the interior, and covering what that supercharger actually does in real operating conditions. And before we get to the verdict, I'll tell you where this program actually started, because it did not begin in Chevy's standard SUV planning cycle. The origin of this brief will tell you everything about why every decision in this vehicle is exactly the way it is. Everyone is looking at the supercharger number. 700 horsepower in a Tahoe. I get it, but that's not the engineering story. The story is the front splitter, not as a styling piece, but as a functional load management element on a 5,800-pound full-size SUV running road performance tires at speed. At 80 miles per hour, a vehicle this tall and this heavy generates substantial front-end lift. The splitter redirects airflow to create downforce at the front axle, which is the axle doing the braking work when you put 700 horsepower behind this much mass. The Grand Cherokee Trackhawk doesn't ship with one. The Durango Hellcat doesn't either. Both leave that problem for the owner to solve aftermarket. Speculative tech number 1, active aero splitter management. An electronically controlled splitter extension deploys above 65 miles per hour, adding approximately 2 inches of forward reach to increase front downforce at highway speeds. The engineering logic is that a supercharged SUV at full throttle on public roads reaches speeds where passive aerogeometry is insufficient for this vehicle's weight class. What it closes, the front-end float problem that makes 700 horsepower SUVs feel nervous at 90 miles per hour rather than planted. Step inside, because the cabin communicates exactly how far Chevy was willing to push the performance brief on this vehicle.
The seats are medium gray perforated leather with red contrast stitching along every seam, and the Z71 badge embroidered in red directly into the headrest. The closest comparison is the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk's Napa leather interior, and the Tahoe Z71X matches it on surface finish quality while beating it on the consistency of the contrast stitching, which on the Trackhawk tends to unravel at the bolster edges within 2 years. The carbon fiber steering wheel with the red top dead center marker is the right call for a 700 horsepower vehicle. It tells the driver exactly where straight ahead is at full steering lock, which is relevant information at this power level. The Durango Hellcat ships with a standard leather wheel that gives you no reference point. In a hard corner exit under power, that marker earns its place. Speculative tech number 2. Adaptive G-load seat bolstering. The front seats read lateral G-force in real time and increase bolster pressure pneumatically under cornering loads above 0.5 G. The engineering reasoning is that a 5,800-pound SUV generating 700 horsepower will produce lateral forces that standard fixed bolsters cannot manage on a driver who isn't braced. What it solves? The driver movement problem, the physical shift away from the steering input that reduces control precision in hard cornering situations. Missed the mark, the red floor mats. In a vehicle positioned at $95,000 against Trackhawk and Durango Hellcat, red carpet floor mats read as an accessory add-on rather than an engineered material decision. And the Trackhawk's Alcantara flooring makes the Tahoe's approach look cost-conscious at exactly the wrong price point. The exterior walkthrough is where the origin story of this brief becomes completely visible. Here is where this program actually came from. The Z71X Supercharged brief was reportedly triggered by a single market event, Stellantis discontinuing the Dodge Durango Hellcat in 2023, and Chevy's product intelligence group tracking what happened to those buyers. What they found was that roughly 40% of Durango Hellcat owners were cross-shopping full-size SUVs from GM during the replacement cycle and landing on the Escalade-V, not the Tahoe. That's a different mission entirely, and you'll see exactly how that mission shaped every design decision, from the front splitter to the quad exhaust, when we walk the exterior right now. Front to rear. The front splitter is carbon fiber with integrated red accent lighting strip along the lower edge. Functional downforce element, not decoration.
The lower fascia flanking the splitter has additional carbon air management elements directing flow away from the front brake rotors. The wheels are large, multi-spoke graphite alloys, estimated 22 inches, wrapped in low-profile road performance tires with minimal sidewall, confirming this vehicle's road-biased mission. The body sits at factory ride height or slightly lower. No lift, no flares, standard body width with an aggressive street stance. The side sills carry a full-length red accent stripe from front wheel arch to rear. The rear is the most aggressive element. A carbon fiber diffuser with integrated fins, 4 exhaust tips exiting symmetrically, and a full-width horizontal LED taillight bar running across the tailgate. Every element from the splitter to the diffuser is part of one coherent aerodynamic system. Load path decisions, not styling exercises. Now, what's making all of this necessary under the hood? Engine: supercharged 6.2-liter V8, 700 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed automatic, rear-wheel drive with available all-wheel drive. In real conditions, 700 horsepower in a 5,800-pound SUV means 0 to 60 in the mid-3-second range, faster than a Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT in a vehicle that seats 7. Speculative tech number 3, supercharger thermal management with intercooler pre-chill. A dedicated refrigerant loop pre-chills the intercooler before a wide-open throttle event, dropping charge air temperature by approximately 40 degrees Fahrenheit versus passive systems. The specific gap it closes, the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk's known heat soak problem, where repeated full-throttle runs reduce output from 707 horsepower to approximately 620 horsepower after 3 consecutive acceleration runs. What it eliminates? The power fall-off cycle that makes Trackhawk owners avoid back-to-back runs at the track. Against the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk at $93,000, the Tahoe Z71X matches or exceeds on power, adds seating capacity, and solves the heat soak problem the Trackhawk never did. Against the Escalade-V at $110,000, the Tahoe gives up interior luxury tier and brand cachet, but returns roughly $15,000 in acquisition cost for equivalent performance hardware. The engineering case is made. The ownership case is what decides whether this is your vehicle. Now, here's what I actually think. Completely straightforward. Chevy started this program because Durango Hellcat buyers were landing on the Escalade-V instead of the Tahoe. Trace that brief through every decision you've seen. The front splitter solving the high-speed float problem that 700 horsepower SUVs have always ignored. The active seat bolstering addressing the driver control issue that the Trackhawk never solved. The quad exhaust and carbon diffuser communicating the performance mission before the buyer opens the door. And it reads as one coherent answer to one specific competitive problem. The unresolved question is whether the buyer who wanted a Durango Hellcat actually wants a Tahoe, or whether they want the Escalade-V badge at the end of that $110,000 decision. I'm not going to answer that, but you need to answer it before the verdict lands. This configuration is expected to price between $92,000 and $98,000, depending on options. The Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, if Stellantis reintroduces it, lands around $93,000 and delivers comparable power but trails on interior material consistency and has the documented heat soak problem at the track. The Escalade-V at $110,000 gives you more badge, more interior luxury, and roughly the same performance hardware, but at an $18,000 premium over this Tahoe. The standard Tahoe Z71 in non-supercharged configuration starts around $58,000. The X Supercharged package adds approximately $35,000 to $40,000 in mechanical and aerodynamic differentiation, not cosmetic upgrades. On residual value, a factory supercharged, factory aero Tahoe holds its value in a way that an aftermarket boosted equivalent does not. The OEM warranty stays intact, the insurance classification stays factory. For a buyer planning a 4 to 5 year hold before a trade-in, that factory designation is worth an estimated $8,000 to $12,000 in residual advantage over a comparably built aftermarket conversion. And it's a meaningful number at this price point. If you want the most capable American performance SUV at under $100,000 with 3 rows and a factory warranty, this is currently the answer in its class. If interior luxury and badge recognition matter as much as performance hardware, the Escalade-V gives you more of both at $110,000 and a shorter trade-in conversation at the dealer. What earns this vehicle its premium is not the supercharger alone. It's the aero system, the thermal management, and the seat engineering working together as a package, built to be driven hard, not just to claim a number on a spec sheet.
That carbon splitter with the red stripe we opened with. Now you know it's not decoration. It's the first visible piece of an aerodynamic system built specifically because 700 horsepower and 5,800 pounds of SUV demands front-end load management that nobody else engineered at the factory level. I genuinely love your perspective on this. If you've owned a Grand Cherokee Trackhawk or put real miles on a Durango Hellcat, was the heat soak issue something you actually encountered on the road or only on the track? $95K for this supercharged Tahoe Z71X or $110K for the Escalade-V? Drop your call below. Next video, we're putting this Z71X head-to-head against the Escalade-V on the numbers that actually matter at the dealership and at the track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.